What's up, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy Focused Live. Ryan Levy here with my boy, Derek Tate. Yesterday, the 2021 NFL season officially began, or was it Wednesday? I think it was Wednesday officially.
It was Wednesday, but it's this week.
Things are good, man. I'm excited. We got a lot of action already, a lot to talk about. How you doing, Derek?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, really, it's all kinds of madness this week. March Madness started last night with the first four. They got the first round of the tournament today. But on Monday, we've really seen with the legal tampering period begin, we've seen the moves begin, the dominoes beginning to fall. And we have some big things to go ahead and kind of dive into when it comes to the fantasy fallout from all these free agency moves.
Yes, absolutely. I'm pumped, man. The homework never stops in terms of fantasy football. You know, we're always bringing you that content and all that good stuff. But I want to start with the Washington football team. Still sounds weird to say that, but I'm actually pretty excited from a fantasy perspective this year for Washington. FitzMagic has landed officially in Washington. Assuming he wins this job, who knows what they're going to do in the draft and all that. But I don't think Heineke's going to beat him out for the starting job under center. But I'm pretty excited. Am I crazy for wanting to have Terry McLaurin as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver this year?
I don't think it's crazy at all to think that he'll slip inside the top 10. I mean, I still have him inside the top 15. With the addition of Curtis Samuel, that's really, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that Curtis Samuel is going to be coming back or joining this passing group because they've really needed an option on the other side of Terry McLaurin to draw some of the attention away from him. I mean, we saw a breakout year from Logan Thomas at the tight end position, but in particular, when it comes to this offense and Terry McLaurin, I don't know if maybe his targets take a slight dip or stay right where they're at, but the efficiency should go up. I mean, we've seen that, dating back over the recent years, Ryan Fitzpatrick under center is not really a true detriment,
right,
as far as fantasy production goes, but that's if he wins this job. And even if he wins this job, he's been more of a bridge guy for like the last, his entire career. So it's always him to the next guy or whoever they want to succeed in their respective franchise. So I think that McLaurin is going to be just fine. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside that you get in the 4th round. I truly think he's a safe pick.
Yeah, I'm with you for sure. I mean, 134 targets last year. I love me a good target hog. He's not quite a target hog because to me, it's 140 targets and up. He was fringe target hog guy. But still, I mean, 87 catches, over 1,100 yards, only scored 4 touchdowns. But I think that we do see an uptick there. You mentioned Logan Thomas. He was a great surprise last year. Finished as the number 3 tight end. Unbelievable. There was a huge cliff there between Darren Waller and Kelsey and then down to Logan Thomas. But I think he's another guy. I mean, you saw how much better Gesicki was last year when FitzMagic was in there until the end when Tua finally figured out what a weapon he had in Gesicki. But I'm actually pretty high on Logan Thomas too, man. I think there's a lot of nice pieces in this offense, and you pair all that with Tone Gibson. I'm pretty excited.
So there's upside with this offense, right? And we haven't even mentioned or dived into really how Curtis Samuel fits into this. Samuel posted pretty much a career year. He finally broke out and, posted pretty much career highs across the board. And I love how they used him as far as kind of more so a weapon than it was just as a pure pass catching wide receiver. I mean, I think he also had like 300 or 400 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken. But Curtis Samuel is going to eat into McLaurin's targets just a little bit. But honestly, I think if you get the right guy under center, you're going to have a pretty productive offense. And I agree with you. I think people are kind of sleeping on this Washington football team offense once they figure out whatever their name is going to be for the 2021 season. It's still weird calling them the Washington football team. I haven't gotten used to it.
Oh, it's awful, dude. I can't stand it, but it is what it is. And I know you're a big Antonio Gibson fan as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see where you have him ranked in your running back rankings headed into the year. I know you probably haven't dug into that 100% yet, but I'm very curious to see if you have him as a top 10 guy.
Tone Gibson's going to be higher up on my board than most. Let's just go ahead. I'll tease it. I'll go ahead and tease it a little bit, put it that way. But yeah, this Washington football team offense is going to be one to keep an eye on. And I think really it's going to provide a lot of fantasy draft day value throughout the entire fantasy season. So yeah, Terry McLaurin is definitely a guy that I think his ceiling hopefully jumps a little bit. We already figured out what his floor is though. And his floor is a top 20 wide receiver.
For sure. I mean, real quick on Curtis Samuel though, is he a guy you're going to invest in? I mean, you say value. I think a lot of people will sleep on him, and he is someone that you can get in the mid to later rounds. That's going to potentially be another top 25 receiver.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be a top 25 receiver. That's the thing I'm a little uncertain of. I don't want. That's where I pump the brakes,
right?
Because
top 25 upside.
Yeah, there's top 20. There's top 25 upside for almost anybody that plays in the National Football League. But true. What I'm getting at when it comes to Curtis Samuel, if you don't have that productive quarterback under center, and a system that I trust and know that is going to be productive for the pass catchers there in Washington, I think he's just more of a mid-round dart throw for me. Like, I think he's gonna be a little volatile, a little up and down, but certainly, they have an explosive pair there now in Washington. I just, with so much uncertainty under center, that's what makes me want to be a little bit less bullish on projecting two guys to finish inside the top 25.
No, I'm with you. I'm definitely a lot higher on Terry McLaurin. So I'll take a
couple. Not scary Terry. Not so scary Terry.
That's what I call him. Not so scary.
His nickname's already taken.
I always hate on the guy, but I love him. He's a good player, man. I'm excited to see what he can do if FitzMagic wins that job. But who do you want to talk about next? We got a lot of news, a lot of players moving places.
So, I mean, has any team made more moves in the NFL free agency period than your boy Billy over there in New England, Boston? Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. They are bringing help for your boy Cam Newton in the form of signing not only Hunter Henry, but Jonnu Smith. I mean, they signed Jonnu Smith on Monday when basically all the free agent action started, and then they surprised everybody by signing two top tight ends in this free agency class. And they're trying to bring back the days of when they had Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski.
Right.
A lot of 12 personnel. And I mean, if you look back, yes, it was kind of an anomaly that both of those guys had fantasy value. And that was with Brady basically using them as his top two targets in that offense. And that's what it looks like as of right now, even though they've made some other moves with Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, which is really an indictment on N'Keal Harry. Harry, I haven't reached. Harry, I haven't reached the top. Harry, I'm still looking for the stairs. So,
oh man, don't even get me started on.
Oh, trust me, man, I'm not happy about it either. But I've got a couple of shares of N'Keal Harry, but yeah, that ship has sailed now. But point being, I actually think it hurts Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. I think that they're going to eat into their production. I mean, you look at what Cam Newton did from a stats passing perspective, it was ugly. And I know he didn't have much of an offseason in this offense to really get used to the playbook. But 8 touchdown passes to 10 interceptions. I mean, he got COVID, so I want to give him a pass. The guy, could you even name a New England tight end from last year? And we do this fantasy shit for a living. Could you even name a tight end on New England last year?
Wasn't it Dalton Keene? Is that his name?
Oh, my God. The point is, you have to think about it real hard, and it feels like a guessing game. But, yeah, look at you. You're probably Googling it right now.
I was just fact-checking myself. It is Dalton Keene.
But the point, I'm not trying to say that you don't know your stuff. You definitely know your shit. It's just the point is we didn't start a New England tight end. A New England tight end wasn't even a consideration for the entire fantasy season, strictly because the lack of weapons that Cam Newton was forced to try to work with. Right. And I do think that Cam Newton still proved that he's capable of doing plenty of stuff on the ground. And in particular, Josh McDaniels is willing to run Cam Newton like he is a running back.
Exactly.
So I still think that there's some value to be had for Cam Newton. I still believe that Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith are top 15 fringe options on a week-to-week basis. But similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with, Rob Gronkowski, and when they had OJ Howard was healthy and Cameron Brate. There's just so many, like, they're going to eat into each other's ceiling. Right. Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz come to mind too.
No, I'm with you 100% on that. Personally, I'm not a Cam Newton believer. His deep ball does not look great. So if you look at it from then that perspective, they got him 2 great tight ends. I feel like there's a very realistic chance that these guys are the top targets on a week-to-week basis. And if you look at the tight end position, it's ugly, right?
You just said Logan Thomas was number 3 last year.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. If you're going to invest in these guys, it might not be great, but you're going to have some big weeks. I believe in the players, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. They're both great talents. And you hear what Bill Belichick says about Jonnu Smith specifically, even how great he is after the catch. Probably one of the best.
Freaky, man.
Yeah, he's a freak athlete. And if you don't believe in Cam Newton as a quarterback and his ability to get the ball downfield, then you got to love his tight ends, right? I just don't want to invest too highly. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Well, I don't think anybody's going to invest highly or predict a breakout campaign for Cam Newton. I think that's where the value comes in for Cam in particular, is people are kind of writing him off. And let's not overlook the fact that the New England Patriots still have an NFL draft that's approaching in a deep quarterback draft class, and they're picking at 15. So I'm not saying that they're going to, I think that the top tier talent is going to be long gone before they pick at 15 in this upcoming NFL draft. But
yep.
I do believe Cam is going to be the starter for 2021, or at least he's going to get first crack at it. I expect that Cam Newton, and you mentioned you don't like how his deep ball looks. I have mixed feelings. I thought that his shoulder looked healthy enough that I don't feel as he's incapable of throwing a deep ball past 30 yards past the line of scrimmage. But I think he's better at diagnosing where to go with the ball pre-snap than people give him credit for.
Sure.
And if he actually has now 2 options that can win one-on-one underneath and can body people out in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So I do like the moves that they made. And I don't want to overlook Nelson Aguilar. People just wrote this dude off, and I was one of them. But I thought that he was fantastic last year in Las Vegas. Was he not the best receiver that they had?
He was. He's still got brick hands, but he is a deep threat. He's going to drop his fair share of balls, but I think that's going to take a lot of the pressure off the tight ends and this offense actually is not going to be bad. I'm a Damian Harris fan, but there's zero upside with Damian Harris because Cam Newton's going to score 10 freaking rushing touchdowns. But overall, I think, they're pretty solid. They're probably going to win this division this year.
You're lucky Bucky's not on, because Buffalo Bills fans, Bills Mafia, would have something to say about that. I think they're a playoff team, though. I think they're a playoff team with all the guys they have coming back from the COVID-19 opt-outs from last year and all the talent that they've went on the free agent market and spent. It's the New England Patriots are the equivalent to the 2021 equivalent to the folks that get that stimulus in their bank account and then go immediately and buy everything possible. Like, they don't save a dime. They saved up all their money. They got their stimulus package and then boom, spent it all in the first week. I love it though. It's so opposite of what Bill Belichick and the Patriots have done in the past, that they went and saw that Cam Newton needed help. And say what you will about Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, I love the moves of bringing in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. I just don't think it helps either of them for fantasy.
No, I'm with you. From a fantasy perspective, I'm just not thrilled about it. But from a fantasy or a football in general, I love the moves the Pats made. They're going to be a much better team than they were last year. And if I'm Bucky or a Bills fan, I'm not thrilled. I'm nervous about New England returning here. It's weird to see Belichick being this active in free agency.
Yo, we got a couple people joining us live. I know that we're talking a little bit free agency madness, but we got Kyle Senra that's jumping in, talking about the New England Patriots. Could both Jonnu be 1 and 2 in targets for the New England Patriots next year? I don't think that it's that out of the realm of possibility. I do think Nelson Aguilar likely slips towards the top, and even it depends on who else they keep and retain from last year's group of pass catchers. But I think I could see a world where I think Hunter Henry will see more targets. Jonnu's going to be the better red zone option.
Yes, 100% agree with that.
For me personally, but not that Hunter can't do great things inside the 20-yard line. The dude can ball as well. Castaway kind of saying, is New England going to take a quarterback with their 15th overall pick? Kind of talked about this, man. I mean, we haven't talked too much rookies, NFL draft. We will do so here on the channel as we quickly approach the NFL draft and once free agency kind of settles down, as most of the dust is settled, but there are still some big names, Kenny Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, that are yet to find landing spots, which is weird, isn't it? I mean, I thought Kenny Golladay would be long gone by this point.
He's probably just asking for a lot of money. That's all.
It doesn't help that the cap went down this year, and I mean, the NFL just got a new huge TV deal, by the way.
Yep.
So,
saw that.
And I don't want to get too much into the details of that, but let's just go. They were making about $5 billion per season with their media revenue contract. It's going up to north of $10 billion per season.
Crazy.
So, but what I'm saying, that has to do with the salary cap, right?
Yep.
So, for guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Kenny Golladay, I'm personally looking at it like, okay, I see that they just signed that big ass TV deal. That means the salary cap is going to jump next year. So why not go ahead, take a 1-year deal, ball out somewhere, and get another payday and get that bigger payday when every team in the league has more money.
No, I'm with you on that. If I'm these guys, I'm signing a 1-year deal. No doubt.
But we'll go ahead. Some other moves that were made. The Arizona Cardinals, in particular, I kind of want to transition to Kyler Murray and AJ Green, right? Look, I don't know what to think of AJ Green right now, because he is basically second in every receiving category in Bengals history behind Chad Johnson. Mm-hmm. He's had a prolific career, came into the league with Julio Jones, and really injuries have been what derailed AJ Green over the last couple seasons. But, now he signs a deal with the Arizona Cardinals. He's got DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of him. But look at the numbers that he posted last year, man. I mean, he played his full 16-game season. I know he lost Joe Burrow, but he still saw over 100 targets and only produced, what was it, 47 receptions, 523 yards, pretty much career lows across the board.
Exactly.
So is AJ Green on your radar? I mean, do you think that being in Arizona, opposite of a all-pro talent, helps him at this point in his career?
I think so. So here's my thing on the too early top 5 Tuesdays with me, Bucky, and Sam this week. We did wide receivers, and I had Nuke Hopkins as my number 1 guy before this news, which I guess you could say was a bit of a reach, right? But and we're still talking physically. I think Nuke Hopkins is the most gifted wide receiver in the NFL. This guy is a freak. He's a machine, and I'm high on Kyler Murray. So I actually think this signing helps Nuke Hopkins. And for me, with AJ Green, I just get this weird sense. I know 2018 he played 9 games. 2019 he didn't play. Last year he was, quote, healthy. But I feel like he was kind of mailing it in. Like he was half-assing it, trying not to get hurt again because he wasn't feeling it anymore. Like the guy wants to win. He's been on a losing team pretty much his entire career, right? Like, well, now I feel like
it also didn't help that they slapped him with the franchise tag.
Exactly. I just feel like he's going to be rejuvenated and motivated. He's got a lot to prove. He's got that chip on his shoulder. I think from a fantasy standpoint, I'll take him as like a wide receiver 4 or 5 on my team. I'm not high on him, but I think it helps this offense as a whole for sure.
For Kyler Murray, and it definitely helps Kyler Murray because even with AJ Green being 33 years old, I still think he's an exponentially better option than Christian Kirk, a healthy AJ Green. Now, do we know that AJ Green is going to be 100% healthy for an extended period of time ever again in his NFL career? He's really had a lot of durability issues. But I will say this, if AJ Green comes in healthy, and people forget, man, Kyler Murray was torching the league before he started to deal with some injuries down the stretch of last season. Right. If anybody has Kyler Murray as their number 1 overall fantasy quarterback heading into the 2021 NFL season, I'm not going to think that's crazy. Like, that's how good Kyler Murray is. and how dynamic he is as a dual threat quarterback.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you on that.
So, and now you give him A.J. Green, and we don't know if Larry Fitzgerald's coming back, but I'm not really concerned about Larry Fitz. I mean, I think that now you have, Christian Kirk you can roll in there, Andy Isabella. I think that even if Larry Fitz comes back and you add A.J. Green, you have 5 very good options that Kyler Murray can just sprinkle that ball all over the football field. And, of course, you know what he can do with his legs. So, and also, side note, I love that they actually traded for Rodney Hudson for the Las Vegas Raiders because the Raiders, we'll get to them in a second. But I actually thought that was a sneaky move to help solidify that unit up front for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. And to expand on that, I'm curious once you come out with your rankings to see where you have Chase Edmonds, because with no Kenyan Drake in town, Chase Edmonds is a guy that I am stoked about, assuming they don't do anything crazy in the draft. But I mean, man,
Chase Edmonds fits this offense. We'll just have to see what they do in the draft because, I mean, the Arizona Cardinals have not been linked to Leonard Fournette, to my knowledge. They haven't been linked to Chris Carson, any of the free agent running backs. I haven't seen the Cardinals going to make a play for. They obviously just let Kenyan Drake walk, and we'll talk about Drake in a second. But no, Chase Edmonds, if you're a dynasty owner of Chase Edmonds right now, I'm actually trying to potentially shop him if we hit this point next week and the Cardinals still haven't signed anybody, because we don't know exactly what his value is going to be. If you're a gambler, then you can go ahead and hold him and hope that he takes the starting role. But I'm saying right now he's atop the depth chart. I don't know if he's going to stay there.
I'm pretty sure I have him in the Fantasy Focus Dynasty League, and I am stoked about that because my running backs we're looking pretty grim at the end of last year, and now I'm pumped. Let's go.
Yes, Chase Edmonds is saving your entire running back depth. Yep, Chase Edmonds is the key. But speaking of Kenyan Drake, a guy that I was super high on heading into last year, thought that he had top 5 potential, kind of flashed at the end of 2019, enough so that the Arizona Cardinals went ahead and placed the transition tag on him. But now he is a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. As we see what Kenyan Drake did, he was running back 16 with scoring 10-plus touchdowns. He was touchdown dependent. Let there be no mistake. Our boy Drake really disappointed, man.
Right.
Broke my heart. Now he's with the Raiders. And what do we think? What is your initial gut reaction to this signing for Josh Jacobs, who finished as a top 10 option, even though, again, he continues not to be heavily involved in the passing game and was nicked up with injuries yet again, but battled through them. What are your thoughts on Josh Jacobs heading into 2021?
I mean, it's infuriating. I mean, for whatever reason, Gruden either doesn't believe in this guy or really just wants to pound the rock, to coin a John Gruden phrase there. But I think it's a great football move for the Raiders. I mean, to get a guy like Kenyan Drake to go with Josh Jacobs, I mean, you like it as a Raiders fan, but as a fantasy or dynasty owner of Josh Jacobs, you absolutely hate it. I mean, Kenyan Drake is, I believe, one of the only guys in the league that's had 3 straight 1,000 yards from scrimmage seasons. I mean, the guy, he can catch the ball. He's a decent runner. Disappointing, I agree, but I mean, he still ended up with a somewhat decent fantasy season last year. But it's just infuriating if you're a Josh Jacobs believer for fantasy football. I don't really understand the move, but from a football perspective, you don't hate it if you're a Raiders fan. I mean, Kenyan Drake's a talented player. Yeah,
and we even saw when Josh Jacobs was either spelled or, I think he did miss one game last season, that Devontae Booker actually came in and had one of his better years of his entire NFL career, seeing 93 carries, 423 yards, and 4 scores. But I guess they're trying to maybe look at Josh Jacobs maybe working better in tandem with someone rather than just being the primary bell cow. And that's what makes me a little bit nervous, is he caught 33 passes, which was a jump from his rookie production. But with Kenyan Drake in town, man, who is by far, I still think he's a much better option than Devontae Booker was last year. I think that's a significant improvement, if you ask me. No disrespect to Devontae Booker, just I think that Kenyan Drake is just a better option than him. He's pretty much everything Devontae Booker is plus 1 or 2. So when it comes to that, I do think it hurts. I think it's going to limit Jacob's ceiling significantly. I think that I have him more now as a top 15 option than I do a top 10.
Yeah, you just can't be confident with Jacobs as your RB1 headed into next year. Correct.
That's what my gut tells me, right? And I mean, am I going to hit you with a bunch of numbers that tell you, oh, well, it's going to be this and this, and this is where his volume goes. He's still a talented player, and he's still someone that's going to be able to put up 100 yards rushing or 100 yards total, somewhat consistently. But Kenyan Drake, man, I kind of feel as if Kenyan Drake, who has proven that he can be very effective in a complementary role, if he gets the hot hand, is John Gruden just going to go, look, I'm rolling with Kenyan Drake for right now? I mean, it's possible.
Anything's possible with John Gruden, buddy.
I know.
I'll tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, man. Yeah, I'll tell you, anything is possible. You're a sharp guy there, Ryan Levy. Nice hat.
Man. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, so we're talking about that situation with with the Las Vegas Raiders, but let's talk about, speaking of situations that some folks might be sad about, Josh Jacobs losing potentially a little bit of work to Kenyan Drake for the upcoming season. If you transition to the city of Chicago, you could still hear people moaning off in the distance, sighing and screaming in some cases with anger, the fact that Andy Dalton, and I don't even have a graphic for Andy Dalton because he's not getting one yet. He doesn't deserve it. And I don't think Chicago Bears fans want to see his face right now.
No.
We got to talk about how this potentially impacts Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson got hit with the franchise tag, and they have not been able to work out a long-term deal with A-Rob. Also Anthony Miller has been rumored to be on the market via trade. I mean, I still like what I saw from Darnell Mooney at the end of the year, but dude, Andy Dalton, what are your thoughts when it comes to the Bears offensive fantasy outlook for 2021 with a guy that really couldn't get it done with the likes of Zeke, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup? Like, that doesn't give me feel goods.
Dude, I am running as far as I can from this situation in Chicago. I feel bad you and I both lived in Chicago for several years, and I have a lot of friends that are diehard Bears fans, and I feel for them. It's disappointing as a Bears fan, but fantasy wise, I'm off on Allen Robinson. I don't want any part of him right now, really. I know last year he finished as the number 9 PPR wide receiver. I mean, he's a great talent. We both love Allen Robinson, but Andy Dalton is just not for me. I don't know if I see a top 10 fantasy season for Allen Robinson again in Chicago anyway. I mean, the targets will be there. They should be there. I just don't know how productive he's going to be with Andy Dalton under center. And after the explosion from David Montgomery at the end of last year, I mean, you mentioned it. Look at Zeke last year in the Cowboys offense with Andy Dalton under center. I'm worried about David Montgomery too.
Well, I'm more so worried about David Montgomery because if Tariq Cohen comes back healthy, that was when David Montgomery's breakout really took place and ascended, was when Tariq Cohen was no longer a factor in the offense. Now, I think that David Montgomery is still going to be, because of the lack of optimism when it comes to the Chicago offense, I still think that you're going to get all of these guys at the proper value. I don't think anybody's going to sit here and tell me that David Montgomery is probably going to be a first-round pick.
No, I don't. I mean, he's got first-round upside, but
he produced like it last year, undoubtedly. And I'm not disparaging David Montgomery. He had a hell of a year, man. He was great. But I don't think anybody loves the upside when it comes to David Montgomery because of the fact that you have either Andy Dalton or Nick Foles under center. Like, that's the reality of it. Allen Robinson, you said it. It's probably not going to be sexy at moments. That's if he plays and doesn't hold out, by the way. If he does play, though, he's a top 15 guy.
Yes.
I mean, he's a top 15 guy that you're probably getting in the 4th round. He's safe as long as he doesn't hold out. Now, if he holds out, then I'm all over my boy Darnell Mooney.
Yeah,
I'm saying that, like, I'm calling my shot there. I mean, I'm actually targeting him everywhere.
Only if there's a holdout?
Huh?
Only if there's a holdout, you're saying? Or
in
general?
Mooney, I'll take a dart throw on Mooney regardless. But, if you're drafting before we see if Allen Robinson is going to hold out or not, then Mooney is somebody that I'm trying to target later in drafts. Because once Allen Robinson, if he does hold out, right? Let's say he holds out in early August. We find out that he's holding out, or late July or whatever. If you're doing a draft before we get that news, try to get Darnell Mooney everywhere, because you're going to probably get to select Mooney in like the 10th round plus.
I was going to say he's a later round guy.
But as soon as Allen Robinson says that, hey, I'm going to go ahead and hold out, I want a new contract, that is when Darnell Mooney is going to shoot up draft boards.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Allen Robinson, I'm not going to hold out. I'm just going to go out there and ball out and play as hard as I can and be a true target hog. He is a target hog. It might not be pretty with the Red Rocket under center, but the target share will certainly be there. And I'm out. I'm leaving Chicago after that, and unless something crazy happens, I want no part of that. But man, I love Robinson. I just don't love the situation.
Yeah, I was hoping A-Rob would get on the open market. It doesn't look like that's going to happen though. That golfer saying I'm in Cincinnati, and they're hoping they take the offensive lineman out of Oregon and to replace AJ Green, a wide receiver of some sort. I actually think they have a lot of talent at wide receiver, man. I love Tyler Boyd, and I think that this clears the lane for T. Higgins to just blow up. So I'm personally, I'm okay if they don't take a wide receiver, but why not? In today's NFL, the more weapons, the better for your boy Joe Burrow, and they definitely need to solidify that unit up front. I'm not going to say that's why he got hurt, but I mean,
yeah,
the less he gets hit, the better. Are we brothers?
Did we just become best friends? I see you drinking out of your stepbrothers.
Yeah. Yep. You got it, man. Yeah. I mean, Levy is my brother from another mother. We are not blood related, but we spent once upon a time, I used to talk to Levy more than any of my significant others. So we were brothers by association.
Yes.
That golfer saying that he's happy Andy Dalton got a starting job, but I don't expect him to be there for more than a year or two. I don't even think he finishes the year as the starter there in Chicago.
No, I don't either. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, unless they make the playoffs, then yeah, he maybe earns himself a contract extension of sorts, but that's not going to make Bears fans happy. Willie Jenkins, how do you guys feel about Will Fuller in Miami? We've finally come to the Will Fuller news. Obviously he's still serving the last of his 6-game suspension from violating the NFL's substance abuse policy. Performance enhancing substance policy. Correct.
That's how he stayed healthy last year.
Yeah, tinfoil hat. That's a hell of a theory. But so we're talking about Will Fuller, though. He joins Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, I believe Jakeem Grant, unless he's no longer under contract. But that's what we're looking at in Miami. Mike Gesicki. What do you think about Will Fuller once he serves this 1-game suspension? How do you think he fits with what they have under center right now in Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love Will Fuller. He is one of the best deep threats in the NFL. Health has always been a problem. He's only played in 53 of his 80 career games. So that is a major concern. I think the bigger concern is to his deep ball. We need to see him take a big step forward. Last year, he only attempted 2 passes of 50 air yards. 2 passes all season. And I think his longest completion last year was 35 yards. That does not bode well for Will Fuller. With that being said, I am banking on the fact that Tua is going to take a big step forward in 2021, and maybe they go at a guy like Devonta Smith or Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts. I mean, they've got the space, obviously, for another talented player on offense. I love the defense down there in Miami. So I think they do need to add another weapon on offense. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to. I'm a Devontae Parker truther, but I think they need to add a third weapon in there besides Gesicki. So I'm curious to see what happens there. But I just want Tua to take more shots downfield.
Oh, undoubtedly. I don't think it helped that the offensive game plan from Chan Gailey was to try to protect and make things simple for Tua. I think that they were kind of pulling back the reins on him, so to say.
I agree.
So I hope that we see this offense open up quite a bit. I hope we see Tua willing to take some shots. And it's not that he's not willing to take shots, man. I mean, we saw him do that shit his entire collegiate career in Alabama. Now, maybe does it make you raise an eyebrow that Devontae Smith won the Heisman Trophy and was dominant the entire 2020 season? We also know that Jalen Waddle can straight up boogie. He's, going to be one of the most explosive players in the league from the moment he steps on an NFL football field. And of course, with Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs III, like, I mean, dude, he was loaded with NFL first rounders to be able to sprinkle the ball around to and just let them make plays. That doesn't mean Tua is not still a damn good quarterback that has plenty of upside. But I agree with Fat Golfer saying Will Fuller in Miami is a big downgrade for his productivity. You want to know why, man? Because his situation was never going to get any better than it was in Houston last season with no DeAndre Hopkins, with a quarterback in Deshaun Watson that is not afraid and throws a great deep ball and is not afraid to let it rip. And they were playing from behind all the time, so he was peppered with targets. They were throwing the ball constantly. All of those things were kind of the perfect, and him finally staying healthy were all kind of the perfect storm for Will Fuller to have the best season of his NFL career. Yeah, and I just don't know if him in Miami makes the most sense. We talked about it on a previous episode. I thought Green Bay had hidden, like, that was the perfect landing spot for Will Fuller. And unfortunately, he's in Miami. And I agree. I think it's a downgrade. If anything, it helps Devontae Parker because now you get Parker more room to operate underneath. You can't go with one safety over the top at your own peril against Will Fuller because the one thing he can do is still fly. Yep. So I don't like it for Will Fuller. I think it's a better football move than fantasy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I'll have a few shares of Will Fuller because I think you can get him pretty late. But to me, this team, as it's built today, is a defense first, run first. We saw how, I mean, regardless of who was running the ball for them last year, they were getting 20, 25 carries. So to me, maybe they open it up a little bit more for Tua this year. Like you said, it felt like they were holding back a little bit, and we've seen what he can do in college. So I hope they let him loose, but I just don't know if I see it. So I'm with you, Fat Golfer, as well. I do think it's a downgrade for Will Fuller, but I'm still going to take some dart throws on him because he's one of the biggest deep threats in the league. And Tate, you said it, he had his career best year last year in 11 games.
In 11 games, no, the talent is there. Talent is there, and that's what's always been frustrating about Will Fuller. But we'll have to wait and see, man. I mean, when it comes to, and there's actually a report from, we'll kind of finish up here with some of the free agents that are still available that I believe are going to have a significant impact on the fantasy landscape. ESPN's Adam Schefter has just reported that Kenny Golladay is in talks with the Baltimore Ravens, which that's another thing that doesn't make any sense. We haven't heard any wide receiver news for the Baltimore Ravens. They just seem content to roll with Marquise Hollywood Brown as their top guy. And I'm not disparaging him. He's a good player, but you can't tell me that they don't need a big physical presence, possession receiver on the outside to complement the speed that Marquise Hollywood Brown brings.
They need to go back to like the Anquan Bolden days. You know what I mean? Like that. A guy like that. That's my guy. No blood.
You've been waiting for a reason to talk about Anquan Bolden on this.
My favorite receiver of all time, Anquan Bolden.
He's a knoll, dude. He's a knoll.
I don't know that I'm crazy about any top wide receiver going there. I just don't believe in Lamar as much as you probably do. I mean, he's a great fantasy quarterback, and it was good to see him down the stretch last year. get back to what we know he's capable of doing, especially on the ground anyway. But I mean, I'm not thrilled about Kenny Golladay going to Baltimore if that's where he ends up.
Well, you say that until you actually see what Lamar Jackson looks like in the passing game with a true number one. True. You need a true number one, man. I mean, like, he's even the year that he broke out and had the MVP campaign. I mean, Marquise Hollywood Brown was dinged up and coming off of a Liz Frank injury on his foot. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was doing it with Willie Snead, man. I mean, no offense to Willie Snead, but I'm just saying, yeah, gray hair. I mean, top 5 hair guy, 100%. I mean, but I believe that you really need to get Lamar Jackson. I mean, look, you have a window with Lamar, right? That he is the most dynamic dual threat quarterback I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Even more so than Michael Vick. And I think he's much further along as a passer than Michael Vick was at his respective physical peak. Sure. So get him a number one, man. Otherwise, we're going to be looking retrospectively at Lamar Jackson like we did with Michael Vick down in his time in Atlanta, where he had Brian Finneran as his number one receiver. Like, get this man a true number one and build around him. Give him some weapons on the outside to complement that running game that Greg Roman has every team in the National Football League guessing on how to try to stop and slow down.
They'd be scary with a true wide receiver one. That's for damn sure.
We would get a true grade on whether it's Lamar Jackson not progressing as a passer or if it was just the other options that didn't really help out their quarterback in 2020. It makes no sense not to give. I mean, of all the young superstar quarterbacks, all of them have a stud number one for the most part.
This is true.
Except Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I'm with you. I forgot to, I wanted to ask you about the Jets real quick. They did sign Corey Davis and Keelan Cole. Didn't have a receiver with 100 targets last year. If this is still Sam Darnold's show, are you buying any Jets receivers?
I am a little bit high on Corey Davis. I really am. And I thought that Corey Davis was underappreciated last year. And I know that AJ Brown bursts onto the scene. AJ Brown looks like a stud. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to still do great things. But Corey Davis was pretty damn good last year, man. And I still think there was a reason why he was taken in early in the first round of NFL drafts. I believe that it's a good fit. They need a guy that can be peppered with targets. And I believe that could be Corey Davis. And I think the Jets may have gotten themselves a number one option on the open market that's still in his physical prime. Like, I'm all about this with Corey Davis. And I'll tell you what, he looks a hell of a lot better if Sam Darnold gets traded and then you bring in Zach Wilson or Justin Fields with the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. Actually, in this receiver room really isn't that bad. They've still got Denzel Mims and they've still got Crowder. So now you've got 4 viable options there. They certainly still need a running back.
This group is not trash. Like in New York, it is not a bad receiver group, man. I think it's one that's, again, we talk about undervalued. I believe that I'm going to have a lot of shares of the Jets pass catchers this year. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I do believe that that's what's going to happen because I think that they're going to move Sam Darnold. Personally, I think that they are ready to move on from Sam Darnold and they go ahead and select whether it be Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, or if something crazy happens and Trevor Lawrence is there too. Yeah,
for sure. You know who I'm going to have a lot of shares of this year, like I do every year? Rashad Perryman, baby.
Oh man, you won't get
Detroit, where he is going to absolutely crush it.
Your loyalty is. I got to tip my hat to you. You're a loyal fella, dude. You're very loyal.
I am loyal to Devontae Parker and Rashad Perryman.
Never giving up. Speaking of never giving up, we're never stopping producing fantasy football content for the upcoming season here at Fantasy Focus. So if you have not yet done so and you're joining us here live, or if you're checking out this video after the fact, a little free agency madness, we're going to be dropping another probably free agency video after another week passes by. We'll see exactly where the likes of Kenny Golladay, Juju Smith-Schuster, and the rest of the NFL free agents land, as this is an evolving situation, and we're going to have analysis for you here on the channel. So go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button. It helps us more than you know. Also, I don't really know if I have anything else to say except enjoy March Madness. Hope your bracket doesn't get busted. And later, says the Tater.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks.